You finish a plate of rice for lunch. It felt like a reasonable meal, but 20 minutes later, your eyes are heavy. Your thinking slows down. You want nothing more than to lie down. You might assume you are just tired. You might blame a poor night of sleep. But the timing is too consistent to ignore. It happens almost every time rice is involved. This pattern is not unusual. It is actually one of the most commonly reported experiences among adults over 50. And it has a very specific biological explanation. Understanding it does not require changing everything you eat. It starts with understanding what rice does inside the body after a meal. Margaret is 62 years old. She lives outside Tampa, Florida, and was diagnosed with prediabetes 2 years ago. She manages it with metformin and walks most mornings before the Florida heat sets in. Last Tuesday, Margaret made a simple lunch: white rice, a little chicken, and some steamed vegetables. It felt balanced. But by 1 in the afternoon, she was sitting in her chair, barely able to keep her eyes open. She had slept reasonably well the night before. She could not understand why a normal lunch left her feeling that way. She assumed it was just age catching up with her. Many adults quietly notice this same pattern, but rarely talk about it. Post-meal sleepiness has a name. Some researchers informally call it a food coma. Others refer to it as postprandial somnolence. But whatever it is called, the feeling is familiar to a large number of adults over 50. It is not laziness. It is not a character flaw. It is a physiological response. And after 50, it tends to become more noticeable. Many adults mention this at doctor visits almost as an afterthought. They describe feeling foggy after lunch or dragging through the early afternoon. The conversation often moves on quickly. Lab results get discussed. Fasting glucose gets checked. But the post-meal experience rarely gets a full explanation. And yet, it carries real information about how the body is handling glucose in that critical window after eating. Rice is a staple food in many households. For generations, it has been considered a simple, nourishing part of a meal. For many adults, it holds cultural meaning and comfort. The goal here is not to create fear around rice. The goal is to explain what happens biologically when a body over 50 processes a significant portion of white rice. Because that explanation changes everything about how the experience makes sense. It is not a failure of discipline. The body after 50 simply responds to refined carbohydrates differently than it once did. And that response has a direct connection to how alert and energized you feel in the hour that follows. We are looking for patterns, not one number. And this particular pattern is worth understanding clearly. When you eat white rice, your digestive system breaks it down into glucose very efficiently. White rice has had its outer bran layer removed during processing. That bran layer is where most of the fiber lives. Fiber slows digestion. Without it, the starch in white rice converts to glucose quickly and enters the bloodstream in a concentrated wave. Think of white rice like a fast-moving river after heavy rain. The water rises quickly and with force. The body has to respond fast. Your pancreas detects rising blood sugar and releases insulin. Insulin travels through the bloodstream and signals cells to open and absorb the incoming glucose. In a younger, insulin-sensitive body, this process is swift and well-coordinated. Blood sugar rises, insulin responds, glucose clears, and the whole cycle settles within about 90 minutes. But here's the part many people are never told. After 50, insulin sensitivity tends to decline. The cells do not respond to insulin as readily as they once did. Doctors call this insulin resistance. It simply means the cells are slower to absorb glucose. So the body compensates by releasing more insulin to get the job done. That surge of insulin creates a secondary problem. Once a large amount of insulin is circulating, it does not simply stop working the moment blood sugar normalizes. It can continue driving blood sugar downward past the comfortable range. This is sometimes called reactive hypoglycemia. Blood sugar rises sharply after the rice, then drops more steeply than it should. The drop is what produces the fatigue, the brain fog, and the heavy eyes. There is also a separate mechanism at work. Large amounts of glucose entering the bloodstream trigger a modest shift in certain neurotransmitters in the brain. Serotonin levels can rise after a high-carbohydrate meal. Serotonin is associated with relaxation and sleep. Tryptophan, an amino acid that contributes to serotonin production, becomes more available to the brain after an insulin spike clears competing amino acids from the bloodstream. So the sleepiness after rice is not one single event. It is a cascade. A rapid glucose rise, a strong insulin response, a steeper than normal drop, and a neurochemical shift toward relaxation. For adults over 50, each step in that cascade tends to be more pronounced. The body is not malfunctioning. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do. But the design was optimized for a different metabolic environment than many adults over 50 are currently living in. Once you understand this cascade, a few simple adjustments can interrupt it gently and consistently. The first is adding fiber back to the meal. White rice on its own digests very quickly, but white rice eaten alongside a generous portion of non-starchy vegetables changes the pace of digestion meaningfully. Broccoli, leafy greens, zucchini, and cabbage all contain fiber that slows glucose absorption. The river still rises, but it rises more gradually. The insulin response becomes steadier. The drop that follows is less dramatic. The second is protein first. Beginning a rice-based meal with protein before eating the rice itself gives digestion a slower start. Chicken, fish, eggs, or legumes eaten first create a digestive buffer. By the time the rice enters the stomach, the process is already moving at a more measured pace. Studies have shown that eating protein and vegetables before the carbohydrate portion of a meal can reduce the post-meal glucose peak noticeably. The third is portion awareness and a short walk. A smaller portion of rice produces a smaller glucose wave. This does not mean eliminating rice. It means finding the portion that the body handles comfortably. And a 10 to 15-minute walk after eating gives contracting muscles a chance to absorb circulating glucose directly. Movement is one of the most efficient tools the body has for clearing post-meal blood sugar without relying solely on insulin. Consistency matters far more than perfection. Trying one of these adjustments regularly is more useful than attempting all three perfectly once. Certain nutrients support the body's ability to manage the glucose response that follows a carbohydrate-rich meal. Magnesium is involved in over 300 enzymatic processes in the body, including those that regulate insulin function. Adults over 50 are more likely to carry a mild magnesium deficiency. Leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, and almonds are practical food sources that support this system quietly and consistently. Alpha-lipoic acid is an antioxidant compound that has been studied for its role in glucose metabolism. It appears to support insulin sensitivity at the cellular level, helping cells respond more readily to insulin's signal. It is found in small amounts in spinach, broccoli, and organ meats. Berberine is a plant-derived compound that activates a metabolic pathway known as AMPK. This pathway helps muscle cells absorb glucose more efficiently, even when insulin sensitivity is reduced. If you are managing blood sugar with medication, speak with your doctor before adding berberine, as interactions are possible. Other nutrients like gymnema and eleuthero can further aid glucose uptake and adaptation. I created a simple, printable protocol that many viewers find helpful when tracking blood sugar patterns. It brings together the habits we discussed today into a single, daily reference. Page 2 includes a tracking matrix where you can log your meals, your energy levels after eating, and your glucose readings when available. Over a few weeks, patterns often become visible that are worth bringing to your next doctor's appointment. The link is in the description below. This video is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. Always speak with your healthcare professional before making changes to your health routine. Margaret eventually stopped blaming her afternoon tiredness on poor sleep or getting older. She began to see the connection between her lunch and how she felt an hour later. She did not stop eating rice. She started adding more vegetables alongside it. She began eating her chicken first. Some afternoons, she took a short walk before sitting back down. The heaviness after lunch did not disappear overnight, but it became less reliable, less predictable in the way that had frustrated her for months. Your body is giving you information after every meal. The sleepiness is not random. It reflects a cascade that can be gently interrupted with small, consistent choices. Understanding the pattern is the first step. The next step is simply choosing one small thing to try. Small changes repeated consistently can make a meaningful difference.